Welcome back to the Cumbie Show, where we tell it like it is and we don't care how you feel. On this episode, we're just going to kind of discuss the 2023's first college football rankings. It just came out last night. Today is Wednesday morning, so the rankings came out last night. I didn't get a chance to make a video last night because I was doing kind of Halloween stuff with the fiance and things like that. But we'll go through the top four real quick. They've got Ohio State at 1, Georgia at 2, Michigan at 3, and FSU at 4. So that rounds out the top four. If the playoffs were to start today, that would be the teams in the playoffs. Just right outside the playoffs, you got Washington at 5, Oregon at 6, Texas at 7, Alabama at 8, Oklahoma at 9, and Ole Miss at 10 to round out the top 10. And I'll go through the next 5. I'm not going to go through all of them because I don't really think number 20 matters. But at number 11, you got Penn State. You got Mizzou sitting at number 12, Louisville at 13, LSU at 14, and Notre Dame at 15. So that kind of rounds out your top 15 with, like I said, Ohio State being 1, Georgia 2, Michigan 3, and FSU 4. How do I feel about this? It's the first playoffs round of the play. Not the first round. It's the first ranking of the playoffs. So I don't think in the end it really matters. I mean, this time last year, Tennessee was ranked number 1, and they ended up with two losses on the season. So as a Georgia fan myself, obviously, big Georgia fan, as long as Georgia does what they need to do and they win out, I don't really see a problem in it. I see this still shows a lot of, to me, not just with Georgia, but with some of the other things, and we'll get into that conversation real quick. There is a lot of inconsistencies and contradictions in it. Like, it seems like they favor strength of schedule, but it also seems like they favor head-to-head matchups, but they don't always do that in every round. I guess they're favoring Ohio State over Georgia because Ohio State has 2 better wins, and their strength of schedule so far what they played has been tougher, with that win over on the road against Notre Dame and that win at home against Penn State. Are, I guess, 2 better wins than anything that Georgia has. Because Georgia's best wins are Kentucky, at home against Kentucky, and then down here in Jacksonville against Florida. They went on the road and they beat an Auburn team, kind of had a squeak one out there at the end. And they kind of toyed around for South Carolina for a half, but then got things going in the second half. I don't want to make this all about Georgia being at number 2. So I personally would have Georgia at number 1. I would give them the benefit of the doubt. They haven't really given me much reason to not put them number 1. Like I said, they've had one bad half against South Carolina. They found a way to win on the road in Jordan-Hare, just like Ohio State found a way to win on the road at Notre Dame late in the game. But in that, they've just kind of been dismantling teams, and they're looking better. If you were to tell me right now, if Ohio State and Georgia would play this weekend on a neutral site field, I'm taking Georgia all day. I'm taking Georgia to beat Ohio State in Ohio State. Like, they, by far, eye test, are the better team. And Georgia would be favored right now. I don't really have a problem with kind of where Michigan's at. They really haven't played anyone. Also, but they're beating the teams that they need to beat. That's what good teams do. You beat the teams that you're supposed to beat. So we'll see. They still got to play Penn State and Ohio State, so that will work itself out. FSU, 8-0. They've got 2 really good wins. They've got a good win first of the year against LSU. They got a good win on the road against Clemson. Now, I understand Clemson is 4-4, but it's still a good win. If it were me, I would probably have Georgia 1. And then I would probably have FSU 2, Ohio State 3, Michigan 4, just because Michigan hasn't played anyone. But like I said, that Michigan-Ohio State thing will kind of work itself out as the year goes on because they have to play one another. And I would have Washington at 5, but I think Oregon is the better team than them. Even though Washington beat Oregon earlier in the year, I think Oregon has, looked better since that game. If you were to put them on the field this Saturday, I'm taking Oregon to win. Washington has played a few games where they've toyed around a lot and they haven't looked dominant. And then they've got Texas ahead of Bama, which I like because head-to-head, Texas went on the road and beat Bama in their own stadium. So that's a good win. You got to respect that matchup. But another thing is where I said they kind of contradict themselves is they got Mizzou at 12 and LSU at 14. That's a head-to-head matchup, and LSU beat Mizzou. But they don't have LSU above Mizzou. Now, I know LSU's sitting with 2 losses and Mizzou's sitting at 1 loss, but Mizzou's loss comes against the number 10 ranked team that they have in their own rankings, and then the number 4. So those to me are quality losses, I guess, where Mizzou's loss comes to a team that's ranked beneath it. It just doesn't make, those kind of things don't make sense. I think if you're going to have criteria, you kind of need to have criteria to the whole thing, because you can't just use eye test here, well, this team looks better, and then not use it for this team. Like, because if you're going to say Mizzou looks better than LSU, even though that Mizzou lost to LSU, then you have to do the same for the teams in the top 4. Georgia. FSU, to me, looks better than Ohio State. I cannot trust Ohio State's offense. I would put FSU above Ohio State. I would put Georgia above Ohio State. I would put Michigan, even though they haven't played anyone, above Ohio State. Now, I did just say I would have Michigan at 4, but that's because they really haven't played anyone, but you get my point. So I think it's really not that big of a deal, even though I've done all this bitching in 6.5 minutes. I don't think it's that really big of a deal. I think if you're one of these top, basically 8 teams, the top 8 can still kind of find a way to get into it from Bama up. As long as you take care of business, you do what you need to do, you'll find yourself in the playoffs. If Georgia wins out, they should be number 1. If Ohio State wins out, they'll be in the playoffs. If FSU wins out, they'll be in the playoffs. If Michigan wins out, they'll be in. It goes on and on. So just want to get on here, kind of do a quick little video about it, kind of talk about it. I don't think it really matters. The only thing I don't want to see with this is with Ohio State being number 1. One, how long do they stay number 1? If Georgia comes out this weekend and dominates Mizzou, does Georgia slide above them? I just don't want to see a way where Ohio State backdoors their way in like they did last year. If they go on and they lose to Michigan, therefore keeping them out of the conference, the Big Ten Conference Championship, they're sitting in the season of 11-1. I'm still taking any other 11-1 team over them. I'm taking Oregon over Ohio State. I'm taking Texas over Ohio State. I would even take Washington if they lose one game and they're sitting 11-1. I'm taking any other 11-1 team over an 11-1 Ohio State. And that's my only concern is, are they ranked so high that maybe they have enough room to fall where they can kind of backdoor their way in at the end of the season? I hope that's not the case. Because if Ohio State loses to Michigan, I don't think they should make the playoffs because they can't even make their conference championship. But that's just my opinion. We'll see. We'll figure it out. We still got a lot more football left to play. But that'll do it for this episode. On that, over and out.